Hi guys, this is a tutorial on how to create a car in terms of physics. So what I've done is I've created an object. As you know, we shouldn't be creating a car, we should be creating a cube and then putting a model of a car inside as a puppet. Then we can animate its wheels and things like that, and it shouldn't have any effect on the physics. I've made it into sort of more of a flat shape, the shape that a car would be though in terms of the physics if we start putting ramps and things in. I've added 5 keyboard sensors: forward, reverse, left, right and brake. All they are just directional arrows. Dead easy to do, nothing else inside there. For the car then, the first thing we need to think about is the physics of the car. So we'll turn on Blender Game at the top, and we need to be making the car dynamic. I wouldn't make it rigid body, otherwise it might not work properly. So let's test it. It falls down. The gravity maybe needs to be turned up, so I'm going to turn the gravity up to 20, which makes it fall a little bit more like a car would. So to go forward, let's add a motion actuator. Let's call it forward. And it looks like it's going to be in the y-axis going this way. Now, in the past, what we've been doing is using the location to move it. This isn't a character that's moving, it's a car, it accelerates. So we need to use force. That will progressively let it accelerate. So y-axis, we can see down here. So let's go for force y, it's towards the arrow. Let's use a force of 15, something quite high because we've turned gravity up. Let's test that. You can see that accelerate. So when I press forward, it's slow to start, but then it picks up speed. Brilliant, that works really well. Let's add another motion actuator. Let's call it reverse. Again, let's do it in the opposite direction, but you won't reverse as fast. So I'm going to use a speed of 7. So it should be slower to start and the end speed. That's going forward, that's because I've left it as 7, and that should be -7 obviously because it's away from the arrowhead. So let's try that again. So backwards, so it goes backwards, reverses slowly but goes forwards much more quickly, which is exactly what we want. Turning then, so left, we want it to turn on the Z axis. I'm going to use a speed of 3. Let's have a look. So forward and left. That works nicely. I think it probably corners a little bit too quickly there, so I'm going to turn the speed down to 2. That's better. That's much better. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more motion actuator, call it right, and we'll rotate it with a speed of -2. That works pretty well. There's one problem that I can see though, and that's if I stand still, I can turn the car on the spot. Let me just make sure. No, I didn't choose a right arrow, which is why it's not turning. It turns on the spot. Now, obviously, a car can't turn on the spot, but when it's got forward direction, it can turn. So all we're going to do is, for the left and right actuator to work, what we're actually going to do for these two is that we're going to say that in order to turn left and right, you also have to be going forwards. Okay, let's have a look. So if I press left and right, it doesn't do anything, but if I hold forwards, I can go left and right. Brilliant. Now to make it stop, to brake, that could be a little bit of a problem if we just stop it suddenly. The way that I've got around this is by adding a motion actuator that we call brake, but we want it to stop slowly. So what we could look at doing is compressing it. So what I'm going to use, again, I'm going to use force, and I'm going to compress the car downwards. Now the Z axis is obviously going down and it's away from the arrowhead, so it's going to be a minus number. So for force, I'm going to type in there 50, something really high, and all that's going to do is it's going to compress it. So if I go forward and press space, and obviously that made the car fly because it should be -50, but if I go forward and press space, it brings the car to a stop. And actually, I'm holding down the forward key. So I'm holding down the forward key, and it does slow the car down. But what it doesn't do is sort of stop the car instantly, which a car wouldn't do. So press space, it slows it down, slows it down, slows it down until it can't go any further. And as soon as I release the brakes, it starts flying and drifting and accelerating again. So this works sort of as a car would want to work now. Let me just show you the logic gate sequence. That's it. It's quite straightforward. And what I've also looked at doing is now attaching a model of a car that I've created as a puppet and basically just sticking it inside of this cube, making this cube invisible. This is the car on the inside. We could glue a camera to, or parent a camera to the back of the car, or we could do like a first-person perspective looking through the windscreen. There's loads of things that we could do. We could make it so that we've got a walking character, and when they come into contact with the car and press a button, maybe E for enter, it actually gets rid of the person and allows you to drive the car and changes the camera angle automatically. Awesomeness rating, well, 1,000,000 if you can get it working. I've never seen a decent car game by a student that involves having a walking character that can go into a car. One of the students 2 years ago created a driving track game, created a race track, and created several cars that will drive round. The physics weren't quite as detailed as what we've just gone through, so if you can use that, then you'll do really well. See you next time.